thing that I find most interesting about that is that you wanted to go and do something. You weren't just going for yourself to see, you know, your people, where you came from. You wanted to go in and make something happen.
Right.
Initially.
And this is before
awesome.
the whole breakdown of me and the TV show. I mean, I was at the height of the success of the show. I just wanted to bring all that attention to this country.
Wow.
But also what I wasn't aware of, divinely, is that they had intentions on fulfilling a folklore. They had the intention. They had already had a council, the paramount chiefs in the Bo province, several chiefs and the chiefdom, my tribal mother in Yande Manga, they'd already decided that because my last name was the middle name of Joseph Washington Scott Manga, who put together the APC. He was a very healing force in the community many years ago to get the Mindi and the Timnis, the largest factions, to come together.
Okay.
They felt that I would be fulfilling a folklore, that there would be a man from another land that will come back to Sierra Leone to continue that work. So unbeknownst to me, as I was being inducted as Chief Gondabe Manga, the name Gondabe, which means warrior for his people, or chief of the people, hadn't been used since the 18th century.
Wow.
So in all of Sierra Leonedom, or Mindi, Timni, or Manga, Bruma, the largest names in that country, there's only 2 Gondabes.
Wow.
And you see in the book that when I was inducted, he died fighting for his village in Ngalu, in Bo, in the Bagwe chiefdom, fighting for his people. They had tricked him, got him drunk, sent a lot of women to him, caught him off guard, and then they attacked the village. Many of them were supporters of the British. They wanted the land. So where you see me being inducted and kneeling down at the headrest, that's exactly where Gondabe I died.
Wow.
That's what I said. And I just thought I was bringing some Tylenol and some soccer balls.
Right. Oh my
But you see her whisper this in my ear. There's a documentary called Isaiah Washington, Passport to Sierra Leone, done by the African Channel when I went back to get my citizenship.
Okay.
And you see this woman when I'm on this bomi, they're carrying me. There's 200, 300 people in this processional. If you ever see it, you see her whisper something in my ear. That's the title of the book. She said in her language, and I asked for the translation, and she said, "Oh, you're a man from another land."
Wow. I mean, to have that happen, that just, I don't know how I would react to that.
I still don't know. I'm still trying to get a handle on it, brother. I'm still trying to get a handle on it.
I couldn't imagine.
I just got to keep it moving.
I hear you.
I just keep it moving.
And talking about keeping it moving, we're going to come back and talk about some of the work that you're doing outside of the book. That it's actually in the book, but we're going to talk about, you know, some other things that you're doing, and also talk about some websites.
Cool.
All right.
Let's do that.
Coming back here on Hip Hop Connection. Back here on Hip Hop Connection, Isaiah Washington is in the studio. We're talking about his book, A Man from Another Land, and he's just imparted a lot of knowledge upon us, and there's more. Because you're doing so much more other than being the author of this book and being an actor. You're working on Capitol Hill. You have work in Capitol Hill. You're doing a lot of work on the continent of Africa. Just tell us about some of those things and what you're trying to do, like your overall goal.
Well, as I said in another documentary that I've been working on, as I whispered it in the former House and Congressman Donald Payne, before Congresswoman Barbara Lee, is that my spiritual and emotional and scientific and intellectual intention is to take back Sierra Leone and restore it by 2016.
Okay.
Literally.
5 years.
Literally. Take it and rebuild it. In fact, I can safely say that the United Nations Special Envoy to Sierra Leone, Michael von der Schellenberg, has reached out to me to see if they can find a special title for me to represent the entire country, as I have been invited recently to join forces with an organization called the Next Society Foundation,
okay,
which will be co-partnering with my foundation, the Gondabe Manga Foundation. And what this design of this structure, this strategic partnership will do is to address CSR, human rights issues directly from the president of Korea, South Korea. So what this means is that I will be overseeing a multi-million dollar fund to directly put those funds on the ground to address the infrastructure, electricity, clean water, the medical issues, much like I guess a governor would be operating in a state. That's what has been the power that has been invested in me by President Koroma. In fact, I just got back from their 50th celebration of independence, and I showed up in my dress, and no one recognized me with the glasses, the beard, and my dress. They all thought I was like a Guinean prince that spoke French, and they didn't speak the English, so no one knew who I was, and they weren't going to say anything because they were like blinded by all this energy. They didn't know who the heck I was until I left and went to the restroom, and I think my colleague who was sitting next to me let the cat out of the bag. And then all of a sudden, I'm taking pictures. It was Dr. Burgess here, and I had the book that I wanted to give to one of the emissaries to the president, just let him know I'm here in support, don't want any attention. But that didn't last.
Wow.
He sent his one ministers down and wanted me to personally present the book to him before the new president of Guinea, Alpha Conde, the vice president of Gambia, again, Michael Schulenberg, the special envoy for the United Nations, the president of all these presidents. And I was terrified. But he says, I want the world, the West African world, ECOWAS, to know who you are and that you're my guy. You're the man from another land. Now go out there and tell the world that we're ready to do business.
Wow.
We're ready for investments. The war is over. In fact, we will probably almost have more peace than we've had war. And I want them to know that you're working for the people, all 6 million of them. And now I'm going to represent the entire country in Korea to talk with Hyundai, Samsung, LG, STX, which is a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, to lead them into the country to give jobs, create job creation, create CSR, which will address the corruption, and create everything that I said I was going to do in 2006.
Right.
So if all this has happened in 5 years, then, like I said in my book, I've always given myself 10-year plans. I think by 2016, we'll be looking at a new Rwanda or Lesotho or South Africa, but it'll just be Sierra Leone.
Okay. Well, pitch us right now. What business opportunities are there in Sierra Leone right now? You talk to all the businesses in the world. What would you say they could get into right now in Sierra Leone?
Agribusiness, rice, crops, sorghum, cotton, peanut, obviously gold mining. In fact, Anadarko Oil already has offshore oil, which is being drilled, preparing to be drilled as we speak. There are many concessions available. There are a lot of distressed gold and iron ore mines that most of the individuals who've had bad dealings with the locals, they're not Isaiah Washington, so they're looking for an Isaiah Washington to bring a person who wants to come in and do some business in good faith and not treat them poorly. That's where human rights comes in. That's where CSR comes in. So the country is open for business. They're just tired of the way the businesses has been handled in the last 50 years.
Okay.
We don't have to say who's been on the ground, who's colonized the country, and not about pointing fingers. But the president has given me the mandate to say that we're specifically looking for African-American business persons to wake up and actually invest in one or more West African countries to the point where as you push a button in those 24 markets all over the continent, so the next time a Hurricane Katrina happens, we are already locked in with banks out of Dubai and Qatar and South Africa and Paris, is that we don't have to wait for a governing body to do anything for our own people. And one of my biggest investors, donors on my foundation, happens to be Jewish, out of New Jersey.
Okay.
And he talks to me all the time. He says, Isaiah, I'll support you in perpetuity because I just think what you're doing is something that my community has been doing forever. A child is born, we plant a tree in Israel. Whatever we make, we try to strengthen Israel with our power and our synagogues here. And he will look at me. He's like, why aren't your people doing that? He said, if everything went crazy,